Hi, everybody. It's Kim. Yeah, I'm back for another YouTube thingy. It's been a while. It is Saturday, June 6th. I was attempting to use my laptop, which is actually a big piece of trash. I know. I'm on the phone again, using my phone because that's a better recording device. And the time that it takes that laptop to warm up, I will have been done doing a video on my phone. Hence, that laptop's going to be replaced by a better piece of equipment in the near future. So that's my rant of the day. When I last talked to you, geez, I don't know what the heck I talked about. I mean, the COVID-19 and the shutdown and all the other stuff has kind of done a number on my brain a little bit. But not all is lost, though, because the COVID thing, the whole shutdown thing, was actually a good thing, I think. I thought it was, yeah, okay, granted, yes, not being able to go anywhere was a problem, and having to wear a mask everywhere was a problem, and not knowing what the future held was also a problem, and people losing their jobs, and the economy tanking, and just people getting sick, and people dying, and the hospitals running out of room, and just crazy insanity, that BS. So, but for me personally, I think the shutdown was a great thing because it really got my creativity to start going again, probably at a rate that I have probably not seen since 2015, if I have to be honest. And that was the year that I started writing the Down the Rabbit Hole stuff. I wrote a lot of those in very quick succession, and I was kicking out books and other series at the same time, and that's kind of where I am now. I wrote out a little outline to let you know where I am and how that's going and my own creative process here. Oh man, I'm telling you, it's been like, I'll tell you, the first couple of weeks of the COVID thing, it was a little, I didn't know how long this was going to last. None of us really knew how it was going to last. No one, I don't have traditional cable TV like a lot of other people do. I get all my news off Facebook. A lot of the TV stations will have like a live feed from their channels, and I watch a lot of stuff via Facebook, or people are talking about it. Facebook is where I get, I'd say, about 100% of my news, with a little Twitter added in, or I'll just Google stuff, but it's probably primarily Facebook is where I get everything. I don't need cable TV. I don't want to pay for it right now. I cut the cable a long time ago, suffice to say. So, I also work a corporate job. I don't do this full time. I don't write full time. That's kind of like my part time gig. My full time job, they had us all. Let me just back up. We're not a corporation where working from home is really the ideal situation. We're not really set up to work from home. The way that IT got us set up so quickly to work from home was extremely impressive. I mean, my company's probably got maybe 200 people there, but for them to get that together as quickly as they did, and yeah, there's a few hiccups here and there. There's a few challenges about working from home when you're really not set up for that, when you're really not used to it. But overall, I think they did a pretty damn good job. I mean, from where I'm sitting, from where I could tell. But I was working from home from about the end of March till just this past Monday when I returned to my office. My company is phasing people back to work just in stages because they don't want all 200 of us rushing back in the office at once, because that would be a problem. So it was myself, my two supervisors, and one other person in my immediate team, and it was really nice. But the pace of working from home is a lot different than the pace of working in an office, and I was a little tired, so I kind of fell behind with the creative pursuits that I wanted to undertake this week. So that's me. I'm back in the office now, but I'm still, in fact, I'm halfway through, well, I would say halfway through editing my next novel to come out, which I will talk about right now. I have finished writing the sequel to Dare to Be. It's called Becoming. And Dare to Be was kind of, Dare to Be kind of left off on kind of a like, oh my God, a lot of the people that read it were like, please, please, please tell me that there's more to come for her, for Henrietta Hope Davis Finley, who is our main protagonist from Dare to Be. I left that book with a cliffhanger because I had an eye towards writing a sequel. At the time that I left off with the cliffhanger, I wasn't really quite sure. I had some vague ideas I'd written down. I wasn't really quite sure of where I really wanted to go with that at the time. So, but I went on vacation, it's almost a year ago. In another week or so, it will have been a year since I went back to Connecticut. And when I was on vacation, I brought a journal with me and I started writing out a basic plot, which I pretty much kept to with a few variations. But this book is called Becoming. It's quite a bit shorter and smaller than Dare to Be was. Dare to Be, I was kind of like trying to throw everything at it at the same. There's a lot going on in that book, and there's actually a lot going on in this book. The book starts on kind of an interesting note. I want to talk about this so badly, but I don't want to give it all away. You know, I want to keep it in my pants, so to speak. But Henrietta does survive. She does make it through the ordeal. That's all I'm going to say about that. But within the premise and the plot of Becoming, I wanted to delve into Henrietta's past and I just wanted to bring a few things to light for things to make more sense about her. Things from her past. There's a huge family secret within her past. It just doesn't affect her. It's kind of like when you throw a stone in the water, there's the initial splash right around where the stone lands in the water. Well, you got all the ripples and stuff that kind of reverberate out from where the stone goes in. That's what is going on in Becoming. What is going on within Henry's past just does not affect her. And also, too, the secret in her past also greatly affects people that she's very close to, because it kind of ties in with things in their past that they don't really realize when Dare to Be concludes. And when the book starts, it doesn't really start about Henry. Henry's situation is introduced a few pages, and this actually starts with a brand new character. And people are going to probably be sitting there reading this going like, who the hell is this woman? What's her deal? Well, you're going to see as you get into the book what her deal is and how she, this new character is, she has a huge secret from her past, and she has traveled from her home state of South Carolina to Cotterstown, which is outside of River Bend, where most of the action takes place in Dare to Be, and World Henry and Finn and the Harrises live up there. Well, this woman from South Carolina, Charleston to be exact, has a tie to River Bend, and she's seeking answers about something in her past, in her family. And she wants to try to seek answers and find out a bit more, but she doesn't have a whole lot of evidence, so she's just kind of going on blind faith, which led her to buy a home in Cotterstown with a couple of friends of hers from Charleston. And she's a widow. Her son was killed in the Civil War. Her husband was killed in the Civil War. So she's friends with this older couple who've kind of taken her under their wing, and they all move up north together. And then with the help of her man friend, this older man, he helps her acquire property, and they live in this property on the outskirts of Cottertown. She lives on one end, and then there's like space between, and then the couple live on the other end, so they're close by, and they can keep an eye on her. So there's her. That's where we start the stories, with her, and then things will tie together very quickly with her, and pretty much the beginning of the book. But her path and Henry's path will intersect, and what ends up happening and how the book plays out is really just really, when I write this stuff, I was actually finishing writing the book last weekend. Between Saturday and Sunday, I've written about 50 pages, which is a record for me. I've got my playlist, I've got my drink, got my earbuds in, and I'm just gone. And hours just tick by, and that's it. And I'm off, and my brain is now in 1865, pretty much. So, needless to say, as ideas came to me as I was writing, I just started getting very emotional, and there was a lot of tears when I was writing. I get so wrapped up in the stuff, I almost feel like it's happening to me. Like I could put myself into the place and into the hearts and minds of the people that I'm writing about, and that's kind of where a lot of that comes from. So there's that. So Becoming is finished. I'm in the editing stages. I'm not really sure when it's going to be published. So a couple of people have asked me if I was going to do a book launch like I did with Dare to Be, and probably not, because right now with this social distancing and people not being allowed to gather, and it's a different world than it was. I finished Dare to Be last June. I actually really formally published it last June too, but had the book launch in October. The world has changed so much in that time. I mean, the things that we took for granted that we were able to do back then very readily and very easily, can't really do that anymore. So I'm thinking Facebook Live or YouTube or Zoom. I got to figure out this video situation. This laptop, though, is making me insane. Anyway, well, I'm going to get better video by then, hopefully. Fingers crossed that we can go in that direction. So there's that. So that's the answer to that. I was thinking, too, about Becoming, or just my books in general. I was thinking that if you see this video, which you will, I'm going to put links up on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for you guys to come and say hello and check me out. If you have any questions, or if there's anything that you want to know more about me, my writing process, my inspiration, whatever, drop a note in the comments. I totally. And the next time I do this, hopefully it'll be sooner rather than another couple of months from now, I can answer it this way, or I can hit you on whatever social media platform you reach out to me on. So there's that. Social media. You can find me at Twitter. My name over there is the @MustangKim11. That I've had that for a while. That's the one I use the most. Instagram is KA_Salter, K.A_Salter. Whatever. Anyway, I'll upload it. I'll put it on my YouTube page too. This channel, WordPress, K.A. Salter Books on WordPress, and all, of course, Facebook groups, K.A. Salter Books. And good Lord, I started that group 5 years ago almost. Oh my God, where is the time gone? Holy crap! Oh my Lord, wow. Okay, so that's Becoming. That's the launch, and social media has been covered. Now, during the process of this whole COVID thing, because I had so much time on my hands, more time on my hands than I normally have, because I don't do a whole lot. I just write and I watch a lot of TV, that's it. But I was doing a lot more of that when I was socially distancing, sheltering in place, whatever you want to call it. I have a lot of thumb drives on my desk. They sit in a little bowl, and I'm like, I wonder what's in all this stuff. So I started plugging them in and reading all. I have a lot of unfinished projects in there. I think a lot of writers do. Where I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be great. Yeah, I'm really getting into this, and I'll start typing these things, and then they'll hit the wall, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not interested in this anymore. Time to move on. Well, there's a lot of those in there. One, however, though, I kept coming back to, and I kept thinking, I just had this impulse, this urge, this pull, this yearning, I guess you would say. At the time that I had this, I wasn't really working on Becoming because I'd hit a lull with that, and I didn't really know where I wanted to go from there, so there's that. So I started this other project, and it's interesting. It's called Loverose. Loverose is kind of, if I could try to explain this in a way that makes any kind of sense, it's a lot of pieces of an old project that I started years ago, a lot of the old characters from that, and I kind of married them together into this. And let's put it this way, Loverose is going to be a little bit longer than Becoming, because I probably hit close to 300 pages. I had to set that one aside to get back to Becoming, though, because I had a sudden creative spurt to go back to Becoming and finishing that. Loverose, however, the basic premise is there's 4 principal characters in that, and each of them has something that the other person needs. In Loverose, it starts off with Ellie Garth. Now, anybody who has read the Rabbit Hole stuff may have heard that or read that name in there. You may be, if you've read the Rabbit Hole series, there's a character in there named Sue Garth. Ellie Garth is her older sister. Ellie Garth is a musician who's had a lot of ups and downs in life, and when Loverose starts, first of all, the book starts in July of 1999. She's fresh out of rehab from drugs and alcohol dependency. Her former husband filed for divorce and took like total custody of her son, who I guess at the time he's about 16. Her ex has a son with a former relationship, so he's raising these 2 boys on his own. His name's Tony. He and Ellie are at each other's throats. No love lost between them. So she's trying to start over, and she becomes a keyboardist for this English rock band. Who they're kind of like influenced by the Moody Blues. That'd be the closest type of thing. This band, they're called Blue Lavender, and they put out an album that year, and it's like their big comeback, so they're mounting this tour, and Ellie gets to become a tour keyboard player for them, and she gets friendly with the bass player, whose name is John Harrison. So that's her. Chris Harrison is John's son, who Ellie meets, and he's a musician. He's looking for something that he can be, a project that's going to take him far. He's really not his father. I think it's really hard for kids where their parents are super famous, and if the kid is in the same industry, it's kind of hard I'm sure it's kind of hard to try to prove yourself to that parent that you've got what it takes to make it in the music industry. So that's kind of where Chris is at. He's kind of between gigs trying to look for something, and he meets Ellie, and she's got what he needs, pretty much. Chris's best friend's name is David Allen. David Allen is an only child of parents who passed away 7 years ago. His parents are extremely wealthy. His mom's got a rose business that he owns it, but it's kind of a name only. David is married, very unhappily married. He had tried to make a go of it in the music business in 1997 with Chris, and his wife said, you're crap. You're never going to go anywhere in music. Just grow up and get a real job. So he got a job as a postal worker. But, just for something to do. He doesn't really need to work, but his wife was kind of leaning on him to grow up and get rid of the childish fantasies and all this other crap. So he did, but he's not really happy. So he and Chris, their band kind of hit the wall years ago, and they're just kind of in flux right now. Chris and Ellie hook up. She reignites her former band that she had with her ex, and Chris is in her band, basically. And they start working on an album, and Chris and David is kind of circulating in and out of their life because his marriage is very unhappy, and he feels stuck, and he wants to get back into music. So he starts playing guitar for Ellie and Chris's group, and that's where he's back in it. Ellie and Chris have a dream. They've always had this dream of forming their own record label, but they didn't want to have a label like all the other big-time labels, where their thing is that most labels were formed and ran by people in suits, like people that don't have a clue about the artistic angle is what their basic thing was. So they wanted to have a label that was run by artists who understood artists and musicians' frustrations and such. So that was their dream. And they told Ellie about it, but they're like, we don't know a damn thing about how to run a business. Can you help us? And Ellie's like, I don't have a freaking clue. However, I have a friend who does. And that is the fourth person, her best friend, Kim Crystal. Kim is a former musician, singer. She's produced other people's albums. She's played on albums. She's written songs. You name it, she's done it. She's an entrepreneur who runs a corporation, and she owns these nightclubs throughout England, and she's very involved in that. Ellie decides that she's going to try to hook Dave and Chris up with her for her to advise them on how to start this business. Well, they meet, she starts advising them. David catches feelings for her, and then he ends up leaving his wife, and they hook up. Anyway, but that's the premise of Loverose, pretty much. That's where it starts. Loverose is the name of the label, and that name is, I've been writing about these guys for a long time. Just not in a place where y'all are going to see them. But yes, Ellie, Chris, David, and Kim have been characters that have been up here and in thumb drives and on paper probably almost as long as Laura Bond has been around. So when I started writing Loverose again, it was like getting together with an old friend that you used to hang out with all the time, and you had all the stuff in common, but other things got in the way, and you just kind of like, you weren't as close anymore. You'd think of them and think, that guy's really cool, but I miss him, but I'm so busy now doing all this other stuff. That's how it was with these characters with Loverose, and that's probably why I went head over heels into this story. So there you go. So there's that. That's what Loverose is. When I'm done with Becoming and all that entails, I'll be back to that. Then I started thinking about a Loverose type of story. Let me just back up. I started getting these ideas after working on Loverose that I wanted to write about something current to do with COVID-19. And that's how Lost in Oblivion was born out of those ideas. And I kind of wrote down a rough outline, and I kind of threw some things in a Word file, and I'm going to redo that a little bit. Lost in Oblivion will have Laura Bond in it from Down the Rabbit Hole and all those other things. Laura Bond's life has changed a lot in 3 years since I wrote about her. She's just kind of, like a lot of people, is kind of lost right now. So hence the name Lost in Oblivion. And I actually saw that phrase on Facebook to do with something totally different. And I'm like, that would be a hell of a name for either one of the albums from one of my bands on my books, or that would be a great name for a book. Bingo, there you go. So there's that. And I have more. Yeah, wait, there's more. Aside from that, I was thinking, I don't know, this is just me kind of talking out of my head. I was thinking that maybe I may do a prequel to Dare to Be, because of the events that happened in Becoming that kind of make me want to think about, dialing it back even further and focusing on Henrietta's birth and everything that kind of goes around that. But I don't want to, that's really kind of in the planning stages. There's that, and I was also thinking of writing another book after Becoming about what happens after Becoming with all these new characters involved in Henry's life and everything. But that's, I never planned for Dare to Be a series, just like I never planned for The Rabbit Hole to be a series or any of these others, or Deja Vu or anything else. Loverose, I was thinking of I'd done this a couple of years ago when I wrote An Extraordinary Life about Sebastian Lord, who's one of the characters in The Rabbit Hole. He's the guy that Laura ends up hooking up with and getting married to, and that's where I left off with her. But I was thinking about doing another book of that style about David Allen and how his parents met, because his mom is Australian and his father's English, and his mom was very kind of a rebel. And in Loverose, it's explored that she was kind of on the outs with an Australian family. So I really get into a lot of drama with David's past. Loverose is a very involved book. There's a lot of, as people like to say, there's a lot of moving parts in that. Oh Lord, are there? It's like a soap opera. Like I don't know. Anyway, just kind of like writing about that type of thing. I like going down all these little trails and, weaving stuff together. I really enjoy that. Anyway, hey, like my VWs. Yeah, I've got a VW thing back there. That I bought that when I was living a couple of town away from here, and I love my VWs. What can I tell you? Anyone that knows me well knows I love my vintage VWs. The new ones, I hear they're going to bring the bus back. I'm like, do it right. I mean, when they brought the Mustang, well, the Mustang's always been around, but when they redid the Mustang look back in 2005, and I like Mustang all through the years. To me, there's no ugly Mustangs and there's no ugly VWs, period, end of. But when they brought the Mustang, when they changed the face of the Mustang in 2005, they went for a very retro look, and they've kind of played with that through the ensuing years. If VW is going to be smart about it, they ought to do that with the bus, because I've seen like the concept pictures, and I'm like, that's ugly. That looks like every other foreign car out there. I'm just not tracking with it. They'll figure something out anyway. And no, I don't want to buy a VW bus. I think they're cool as hell to look at, and they're probably a blast to drive, but there's nothing there. You get hit head on and something like that, there ain't nothing. There's no airbags. There's nothing. You're done. I got to think about safety. I want to stay alive. I want to stick around for a while. Anyway, so that is it. And wow, by the clock on the wall, I managed to just bang my gums together. It is so great to see you guys again. It is so great to talk to you again. Remember, if there's anything that you want to know about me, my writing process, anything, drop a line in the comments on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, WordPress, Instagram, wherever. When this thing gets uploaded, I'm going to put all those links into the description, I guess. Anyway, so hope the Florida people anyway are managing to not float away. We're getting there's a tropical storm out in the Gulf, so it's been raining on and off all day, so I don't feel guilty for staying inside all day. I got stuff to do, so there's that. So, having said that, have a great weekend, everybody. Bye-bye. Kim out. See you later.